Let's talk about cryptids. Welcome to Weary Lore and welcome to my Cryptids of America series. In this series, I will be introducing you to one cryptid from each state in America, giving you a short explanation of their history and story, and then giving my own opinion on the cryptid, where I think it came from, and what I think it could be. Now, I'm aiming to not do well-known cryptids. I want to learn about new cryptids and pass that knowledge on to you. I won't be talking about Sasquatch or the Abominable Snowman, or how I think they're the same thing. I won't be talking about the Wendigo or El Chupacabra. We all know about those cryptids. Let's learn about some new ones. In this series, I will be doing 5 states in each episode with a total of 10 episodes. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 1 of Cryptids of America. Today, we will be exploring cryptids from Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, and California. Let's start with Alabama. When I started my research on Alabama, I saw reports that there were no cryptids in Alabama. There are state maps out there that list a cryptid for each state, and surprisingly, some of them leave Alabama blank. I'm not using one of those maps for these videos. I'm researching each state separately to make my own decision on which cryptid to cover. I quickly found that those reports of there being no cryptids in Alabama was very, very wrong. The most popular cryptid in Alabama seems to be the white thing. As that is most popular, and most likely the most well-known, even though I don't know about it, I'm not going to report on it in this video. The cryptid that I am going to cover is the Wolf Woman of Mobile, Alabama. If this were just a run-of-the-mill werewolf, I wouldn't be focusing on it, or her. However, the Wolf Woman of Mobile, Alabama is not a shapeshifter, at least she's not reported to be. The Wolf Woman has the body of a wolf and the head of a human woman. She's described to be pretty and hairy, but also powerful and elusive. It was suspected that she was a sideshow attraction that escaped from a carnival. Reports of the Wolf Woman began in early April of 1971. There were upwards of 50 calls reporting sightings or information about the Wolf Woman. One of the reported sightings involved the Wolf Woman actually chasing a man home. There was enough ruckus about this cryptid for multiple news stories to be written. On April 8, 1971, a newspaper article was released about the Wolf Woman that included an artistic rendering of the creature. Soon following that, another newspaper article was released in Pensacola, Florida, about the Wolf Woman. This article held some jokes about the Wolf Woman, which I found very amusing. From the Wolf Woman wafting from an empty bourbon bottle, to a man joking that my old lady went to the beauty parlor and got lost on the way back. This article made the Wolf Woman more of a joke, which she actually might have been. According to my research, the first report of the Wolf Woman was on April Fool's Day. Obviously, something more is happening for this legend to blow up like this, but it all could have just started as a joke. What are my thoughts? Sightings of partially human creatures are very common. Pareidolia is a huge factor in any type of cryptid sighting. Wolves can have very expressive, very intelligent, very human eyes, and humans draw more information from the eyes than from other facial features. Red wolves were present in Alabama in the 1970s, but they were gone by the 1980s. The sightings of the Wolf Woman were very short-lived, dying out after the 1970s. They don't still happen to this day, at least not from what I could find. Also, with the suspicions of this being an escaped sideshow attraction, let's just say, carnivals and circuses created fake attractions all the time. Tying a mask to a wolf's head would not be the most difficult thing they ever done. Also, the entire story beginning on April Fool's Day makes it out to be more of a joke than something real. Do I believe that people saw something? Yes, of course, but it was most likely just a red wolf. Are you from Alabama? Have you ever had an encounter with the Wolf Woman of Mobile? Let me know. Moving on to Alaska. Alaska's cryptids were a fascinating read. If I wanted to, I could definitely do an entire video on just the cryptids said to roam this frozen state. As I was unaware of nearly every single one of them, I feel like people just don't talk about Alaska a lot. So, I chose one at random. I decided against Alaska's version of the Loch Ness Monster, Illy, and Alaska's version of Bigfoot, the Bushman, because we would all know their stories. We know what the Loch Ness Monster is and what Bigfoot is. It would just be the same story in a different location. So, I chose the Tizaruk. The Tizaruk is one of many sea monsters of legend. This cryptid is difficult to fully describe because no one has ever seen the entire creature. The islanders claim that only the head and neck and sometimes the tail rise out of the water. The head and neck can allegedly rise out of the water to a height of 7 or 8 feet. It is very serpent-like and very dangerous. The Tizaruk's tail is said to be flippered, like a seal's. Other descriptions include this creature looking like a giant caterpillar, or a worm. That sounds a little less frightening. But what can the Tizaruk do? Unlike our previous story, the Tizaruk doesn't simply scare and chase. This cryptid is known to be able to snatch people off of docks without fully exiting the water, and without making a sound. This creature is also smart, is able to attract prey by tapping on the inside of their boats. Allegedly, it has killed by capsizing boats and taking the people within. Really? It's just another reason to not visit Alaska. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are that the ocean is huge and terrifying in a thrilling way, and we definitely don't have every creature within it classified. The ocean is alien and fascinating, and anything could be down there. This creature, however, looks a lot like a leopard seal. Just a lot larger, with a deformed neck. Leopard seals aren't friendly. They are the only seals known to regularly hunt warm-blooded prey, and there are records of them attacking humans, with one known fatality. Now, do I think a leopard seal can snatch a person from a dock without making a sound? No. Do I think there could be an undiscovered, larger, more aggressive type of seal related to a leopard seal that could come closer to the legend of the Tizaruk? Yes. As I've said before, cryptids are only cryptids until they're officially discovered. Anything could be in the ocean. Are you from Alaska? Have you ever had an encounter with the Tizaruk? Let me know. Like with Alabama, I found what seems to be the most popular cryptid of Arizona was one that I hadn't heard of. However, since I saw it everywhere with my research, I will not be talking about the Mogollon monster. On top of it being very popular, the monster is also like a Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a cryptid that we all know, and rehashing it over and over again in different locales would just be boring. The Mogollon monster is far from the only cryptid in Arizona. Also, just to get it out of the way, I won't be talking about skinwalkers. I won't be talking about them in any state. The cryptid that I chose for Arizona are the devil monkeys. The devil monkey is classified as a hairy humanoid, but reading its sightings and its descriptions, it seems to be more of a mixture between a monkey, specifically an olive baboon, which is an old world monkey, or a macaque, and a kangaroo. This cryptid is described as having an elongated snout, three-toed razor-clawed feet, tiny pointed ears, and a long, bushy tail. The devil monkeys are described as highly aggressive, and they will attack. They have attacked people on foot and in vehicles, seemingly following them long distances. Arizona is far from the only place that this cryptid has been sighted. Starting in 1934, this cryptid was sighted in Tennessee. This sighting stated that the creature was able to leap across fields with lightning speed. However, this sighting was not considered official. The first official sighting of the devil monkey was in 1959. During this sighting, a family was attacked by the devil monkey in their car. The attack was vicious enough to leave scratches on their car. In another attack, the devil monkeys ripped the convertible top off of a car. In another, more recent sighting in 2006, a man allegedly entered his home, to find the devil monkey attacking his dog. Purportedly, the man snapped a picture of the creature before it ran. However, in my research, I have not been able to find this image. Sightings seems to have petered off after that, until they stopped. The devil monkey is still being investigated, but it may be a lost legend now. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are mixed on this cryptid. Upon researching, I found that monkeys are not native to Arizona, so the odds of this just being a mistaken identity cryptid are smaller, but not impossible. It's definitely not impossible because there is a monkey farm in Arizona. This farm was reportedly shut down and abandoned, but it was investigated by a YouTuber and found to still be open and running. Now, monkeys are smart. Is it possible that one of the monkeys in that farm escaped? Yes. Does that explain the sightings across the country of the devil monkey? No. If I was more of a conspiracy theorist, I would say that it was an experiment gone wrong that then escaped. But there's a simpler solution. There's a creature native to Arizona that's often mistaken as a monkey. It's called a coatimundi. It hangs out in trees, has a long snout, and a bushy tail. This creature is not normally aggressive, but it can become so if it feels threatened or cornered. Could this be the answer for what the devil monkeys really are? Maybe. The fact that they have been sighted across the country makes it less likely, but there is a chance. Are you from Arizona? Have you ever had an encounter with a devil monkey? Let me know. Arkansas is another state whose purported most popular and well-known cryptid is one that I have never heard of. I saw the legendary Fook monster everywhere I looked while researching cryptids of Arizona. As with the other states, I will not be reporting on this cryptid here, as it is supposedly well known, plus it's another Bigfoot-type cryptid. I'm only 4 states in, and I'm starting to think that every state has a Bigfoot-type cryptid, and that all these cryptids are the same creature. I do have strong feelings on Bigfoot and the legitimacy of this cryptid, but that's a topic for another video. Should I do a most popular cryptid video? Sure. It's probably been done, but I think it would be fun. However, the cryptid I chose for the Arkansas slot in this video is the Heber Springs water panther. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole researching this cryptid. It was, obviously, one I had never heard of, and it has very close ties to Native American mythology. Like the Tizaruk had very close ties to Inuit mythology. Before I get into the tie-ins with Native American mythology, let's talk about what the Heber Springs water panther is. This cryptid is no ordinary panther. It is described as man-like, with a covering of fur that gives off a hellish scream when roaming the deep forest. It has also been described as a mix between a Bigfoot, that guy really gets around, and a panther. Lastly, I saw it described as a mix between a panther and a dragon. Sightings of the Heber Springs water panther date all the way back to the early 19th century. However, at this time, this cryptid was called something else. The Ojibwe called this cryptid Mishipeshu, and to them it was a mythical water being or malevolent spirit that would drag people underwater to their demise. Later sightings of this creature found it haunting the waters of the Green Fairy Lake and the Little Red River. Sightings of this creature from the early 19th century up until around 1966 were sporadic. However, something changed in 1966 and suddenly there was a flooding of sightings of the panther, and it wasn't hiding in the deep forest any longer. It was swimming in the waters of Green Fairy Lake and expected to live in a partially submerged cave on the northern shore. Even if the creature wasn't seen, it was definitely heard. Its scream was described as the cry of a panther and the scream of Satan himself. Since the 1970s, sightings have died off, and according to the research of a UCLA professor, very few people know of the creature, and even less have had encounters. Less being exactly one. What are my thoughts? Native American mythology fascinates me. The creatures and spirits of their past are so interesting, and I always feels like there's truth to them somewhere. Because so many Native American stories are passed down via word of mouth, it's possible that this story was just embellished to make it more interesting. There was a time when a tiger was described as a monster as well. Panthers, in and of themselves, are terrifying creatures. I have no doubt that there was one in the past that swam through a murky lake only to drag terrified prey under the water. They do tend to take down their prey with a bite to the back of the neck, but that's not always how it's done. Today, there's not a population of wild panthers in Arkansas. Any sightings are expected to be escaped illegal pets or zoo animals. But there were panthers in Arkansas up until around 1975, right around when the sightings of the Eber Springs water panther stopped. Could this all have been a case of mistaken identity? A panther with a penchant for water and a terrifying scream? It's very possible. Are you from Arkansas? Have you ever had an encounter with the Eber Springs water panther? Let me know. Now, the cryptid that I most associate with California is the Fresno night crawlers. I can remember seeing videos of these creepy little things come up on ghost investigation shows, and really being intrigued by how it was done. But, as is the theme with this and future videos, they are not the ones I will be speaking about today. In my research, I found multiple cryptids from California that I had never heard of. I really thought I was an authority on cryptids before this video, but it's teaching me that I'm really not. I really did want to do a report on the cactus cat, but even with my love of cats, that legend seemed more like a joke than a true legend. But a drunk cat accidentally pricking cowboys with his cactus tail, that's something I'll never forget. Now, I'm going to introduce you to the Dark Watchers. As ominous as the name of this cryptid sounded when I first saw it, it's actually the most benevolent cryptid I'm speaking about in this video. The Dark Watchers are humanoid shadows seen on the ridges, hills, and peaks of the Santa Lucia Mountains in California. They are most often reported to be seen around twilight and can be anywhere from human-sized to giant, and adorned with brimmed hats and walking sticks. They are said to cause a sense of unease and anxiety. And even if you attempt to approach them, they disappear. No one has ever seen one up close. They are not aggressive and are supposedly just watching those who wander the mountains. A non-aggressive cryptid. That's quite novel. Sightings of the Dark Watchers date all the way back to the 1700s. They might date back further than that, but their stories were passed down through oral tradition, so an exact first sighting date is unknown. When Spanish settlers first moved into the area, they were said to have seen the Dark Watchers, originally dubbing them as Los Vigilantes Oscuros. The sightings only continued after that. When Anglo-American settlers staked claim to the land, they also reported the sense of being watched from the hills. Those who have seen the Dark Watchers state that even though they look human, they are most assuredly not human. These creatures have been immortalized in at least 2 written works by legendary writers. In 1937, poet Robinson Jeffers wrote about the Dark Watchers, giving an expanded description of a figure in shabby clothes with pale hair who, when looking directly at him, showed him his own face. Soon after, in 1938, John Steinbeck mentioned these mysterious figures in his collection of short stories called The Long Valley. In this story, he warned people to ignore the figures and never show interest in them, as they did not bother anyone who stayed on the trail and minded their own business. Unlike other cryptids on this list, sightings of the Dark Watchers continue to this day. There are those who even say to leave them gifts if you see them. You might receive something in return. What are my thoughts? As interesting as I find this cryptid and its visual relation to the Hat Man, I don't believe that it's actually a cryptid. Would it be cool for there to be some sort of spirit in the mountains just watching hikers, protecting the land and creatures there just by existing? Yes. Is it this cryptid? I don't think so. Could there be something like that in the world? Yes. Forests and mountains, much like the ocean, hide many mysteries that we just haven't discovered yet. But this cryptid has two very simple explanations. One, they're just people. They're just other people out there on the mountain, and the very atmosphere of the mountains has made them seem unearthly. The sense of unease and anxiety can just be caused by being on the mountain, not by a supernatural force. The prevailing theory of these creatures is that they're simply a figment of the imagination. They are a hallucination caused by something called the Brocken specter. The Brocken specter happens when a strong light source casts a real human's shadow onto a cloud across from it. That's an extremely simplified explanation, but it's a real phenomenon that can make it look like shadowy, sometimes huge people are standing upon ridgelines. It happens in multiple places on the Earth, and is well documented. Are you from California? Have you ever had an encounter with the Dark Watchers? Let me know. Now that we're at the end of the video, I am well aware that I have made myself seem like an absolute disbeliever. A skeptic who can find an explanation for anything. But that's not true. I believe in the supernatural and in cryptids, but there has to be no other explanation for me to believe that the cryptid is real. If I can think of one, those with greater minds than my own certainly can. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do you have any other explanations for the cryptids I introduced to you here? I would love to see what you have to say. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.